Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. In the place to be. Don't mind me, I'm just dealing with allergies. Alrighty. When last we left our heroes. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. Welcome to part 2 of day 3. We have for the second half of the day, I think. It's like, try to remember. I believe we have. Thanks, Darren. I believe we have Tyree Morrow, as well as oh yeah, Tony Grillo coming up on the end. So let's see. I believe. I think that's the order. All right. So, without further ado, where's my time? What time is it? Oh, sorry, it's 1:10. Okay. So, all right, Tyree, I don't know if you're around or not, but if you are, feel free to chime in here and there. Oh, I'll tell you one thing. Somebody was commenting that they needed tutorials for Toon Boom Studio. Well, Toon Boom Studio, I think, was discontinued like years ago. I used to keep Toon Boom Studio because I still had a client that was using it, and I was still training and teaching him. But he has since passed on, and God rest legend Mr. Jock Church. But yeah, what I might do, based on a lot of stuff that Tony was talking about, I might try to pick his brain one day and see how much of because Harmony Essentials was supposed to replace, or pretty much was the replacement for Toon Boom Studio. And there are some still pretty cool things that actually happen with Harmony Essentials with respect to that. So that might be something I'll look into, especially with respect to what's that called? More of a tradigital, as it were, animation, where you're talking like hand drawn and stuff like that. So, okay. So next up, let's see if I can pull this, and hopefully I didn't mess up my sound today. It's gonna pull up Mr. Tyree Morrow. Let's see if we can get this up. It's like choose a file. Yes, I think. Why am I actually second guessing my timing? Hold on 1 second. Let me double check before I do that, because it's bugging me now. Let's see. Double checking. La 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 la. It's like, I am 95% sure that Tyree is up first, and then we're ending with Tony, but I want to double check. La la la. Yeah, it's an interesting. There's an ongoing conversation that I have with other people. It's like, I think if anyone, there are a few people who actually do. What's the word I'm looking for? There are a few people that do tutorials with respect to Harmony Advanced, and even fewer that do tutorials with respect to Harmony Essentials. Okay, double checking my thing here. Okay, yes. Sorry, don't mind me. I was triple checking to make sure I didn't put something out of order. All right. Studio ended in 2017, I believe. You may be able to find a used copy. I think 8.1 was the last version. Yeah, I think I recently finally pulled it off my computer. So, all right. So we're gonna have about Tyree Morrow. Like, let's see, choose file. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am hanging out with a longtime friend, colleague, animator, Mr. Tyree Morrow.
Hey, how's it going? How's it
How's it
going?
going? I'm hoping I said that right.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
said that totally right, man.
okay, cool. It's like, is it Morrow?
Yep,
It's like,
it's right. I tell people it's just like saying tomorrow, same initial, same lettering, TM, tomorrow, trademark, however you want to do
so
it.
when you next time you see me, I'm going to be actually mouthing, "Yeah, Mr. Tyree, tomorrow."
Tyreek
not
tomorrow,
not
tomorrow.
tomorrow. No. The two is silent.
Yeah, yep, two is silent.
All right, sir. Well, tell everyone who you is, what you do, and why do you think you're here today?
Um, I do what I do is I'm a 2D animator. I do some character animation, and I run a small animation studio here in Atlanta called Creative Overdose Studios. Yeah, so we do like a lot of pilot episodes and explainer videos for small businesses and people that want to pitch their ideas to bigger networks and bigger studios. Cool.
So yeah, now I've got to ask you a question because I didn't even think about this. So your explainer videos, are you doing those mainly for people in Atlanta, or are you doing them outside of that?
Out there, whoever needs one, really, for the most part, it's been in Atlanta. And yeah, they're mainly in Atlanta, but if anybody needs one, no matter where they are, we'll do one.
Cool. Definitely cool. So I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Since you've been doing this for a minute, and I see you posting on the interwebs there. So I'm curious, what do you think is the biggest misconception of people like wanting to become an animator?
I think one of the biggest misconception is that you'll be doing your own work. Like you're going to go in there, I'm going to be an animator and I'm just going to produce my own stuff, which you can. But the reality of it is before you even understand how to do that, you'll be working on somebody else's project for a while. You'll be working on other assignments for a while. That and the concept of time. Whereas people that are getting into animation will say, well, I want to work on a 5-minute animation. It should only take me a little while to do that, not knowing that it almost takes 2 weeks for 10 seconds of animation, and that's by yourself. So, that's a big misconception is the time, the concept of time, and then just thinking you're always going to just work on your own stuff out the gate.
Okay. Yeah, the funny thing about that, and I think that goes for not only animators, the concept of time, but definitely to clients.
Oh yeah.
When I was younger and dumber, I had 2 different music video clients, and seemingly the budget was the same on both of them. It's like we're talking a music video, but they're thinking $250, and I'm going, No. It's like I barely do a logo for 250. It's
Right.
like, but yeah. It's a simple. We just want a South Park looking thing. Like South Park is made in Maya. Are you aware of that?
Right.
Like,
I think that blew people's minds, man.
it's like, are we connecting here? Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's simple, right?
I had I had a client like that too. That was just, how it was a budget and time thing. And they were like, well, for 5 minutes, a music video, we talked about the price and how much would that cost? And I gave them the price for 5 minutes of animation. And they were like, well, I could shoot a live action for this amount. And I was like, still cheaper than live action. And then I had to break it down to like, look, it doesn't take 5 minutes to do this thing. It takes a really long time, and
right.
You're paying for the skill. You're not just paying for the product itself.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the. I always tell them, you got your hamburger client, you got your steak client. It's like, and then I was telling somebody we had to break it out. Sometimes it's a bologna client, or I said ramen. It's a ramen for our client, and somebody said, "You know how expensive ramen is these days?" So I was like, okay.
Depending on where you go.
I was like, man, you got to talk. We're talking college ramen. Or are we talking restaurant ramen?
Right, there's a difference. We're talking about we getting packs. We're getting packs for the week. We just eating for the night.
I love that. That is awesome. Okay, so I've been trying to figure out, because I started working with some schools in India, and I am always saying hamburger client, steak client, but I'm trying in my head. I'm going, dude, we got to come up with something else. So I like that. So we got college ramen, or we're talking restaurant ramen.
Yep, that's it.
It's so awesome, man. But yeah, it's always fun when you try to educate people, and hell, I'm still learning, because I was watching people when being connected and talking with people like Mark Simon, or I was watching a behind the scenes Robert Valley talking about how much work goes into the piece that he's doing. I'm going like, wow, okay, because I'm thinking, yeah, it's Robert Valley. He's doing all this. No, Robert's got a team like doing the stuff for like Love, Death and Robots and everything. So I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So my next question to you: do you prefer working on cartoons and animations for kids, or do you prefer working on stuff for adults? And it always sounds weird to say adult animation. It's like, it sounds like you're saying one thing. It's like, no.
Yeah, no, not that way. No.
Not that way.
Regular, you can't even say regular amusement because it's regular. But no, I prefer, I actually prefer, I like them both. But I think I prefer the more adult. I guess now, because when I'm an adult, I can relate to it a little bit better.
Okay.
But I think there's just so much more. There's just so much more that goes into the adult animation. There's so much, I guess, a range of emotions you can do with characters. Whereas with kid animation, you can hit a few of them, but for the most part, it's upbeat. And there might be like a second of sadness or something like that, but they get through it really quickly. But with adult animation, there's so much, just a wider range of acting and pantomiming stuff you can do with adult animation. It's just more thought to me, but I like it. I love it.
Cool. Yeah, I was talking with one of our other panelists, Susanna Rodriguez. And we're discussing the thing of where people almost limit. They have an idea sometimes, so like a preconceived idea of what you can do in kids animation. She goes, no, you got to do this and this. And she was talking about how it's more difficult because there's like you're trying to convey a lot, and then there's rules. You can't. It's like, I was like, okay, yeah. I think I like the idea of a kids thing, but I think I also, my persona and the stuff that I write and stuff that I want to write still leans way more to an adult to an adult audience. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I love a good kid show. I am not.
Oh, yeah.
I am not there. It's not.
There's this one kid show that I was watching, and I was watching it with my grandson, and I forgot, was it called Bluey? With the little
Yes,
Bluey
I've
dog?
heard about this. Yeah,
I'm not even gonna lie. I think I was more into that than he was, because I just enjoyed it. Now that type of child animation is really good. It's really good, and they hit those ranges and stuff. So it's
my favorite, my guilty pleasure, and I literally have on my desk.
Oh man, Peppa Pig. Jeez.
Yeah, it's like
she's a phenomenon right there.
Yeah. And I always tell people I have a quote unquote board of directors. So I have little toy action figures of my board of directors. So there's Lieutenant Uhura, I've got the Golden Girls, and I've got Peppa Pig up here. And those are just a few of them. But those are people who sit on my shoulders, and like when I think of a decision, like, should I do blah? And they're like, well, what would they say about it? So yeah, Peppa's gangster. So
yeah,
so watching, and speaking of, so watching that, it looks simple, but it was an episode where her little brother's at the dentist and he's getting his teeth cleaned or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were spritzing the water, and you see the teeth go like fade from one color to another. It was like little subtle stuff, or the fact that when they talk, their chins move. And I'm going, yes, they could have South Parked it and just stuck a mouth on there, but no, their chins move. And I'm going, it's the little things.
It's always the subtleties and the little things that make it believable. It makes it like real to you.
Definitely. All right. Let's see what else we got here for you. What is your favorite or most used animation tool and why?
My animation tool in program, or just anything to animate with?
Anything. I'm curious where this is going to land.
Oh, wow. I still have my 2D disc, and I have 500 reams of animation paper. Like, everybody's like, you still have paper? I'm like, yeah, I like it. I like drawing and animating on paper. I think I like the flip part when you're flipping and rolling. That's the part I like about animating on paper. So I still have that. And every once in a while I'll work out the animation on paper, and then I'll do it on in Harmony or in computer and stuff like that. I really like animating on paper. I really like using that.
I can see that. My whole thing is where my animation mentor, God rest him, you sit up there on the computer. When are you going to get out of that box and actually do some real work? Lou,
well,
man,
thank you.
It's like by the way, shout out for people who went to the Atlanta College of Art, and maybe I think he talked about places, but the late great Lou Hertz taught me a lot, and that's what I remember, like watching his stuff, and some of the people who I know who are really, really strong in animation, learned on paper. And Tony White was actually talking about that, where it was because if you get it to work on paper, then it makes you a stronger animator. If you're learning even the same pencil, you're learning all the same stuff in the computer, it's not quite the same, because we're talking, you've got to get that pencil touch just right, and you're like pencil and eraser. Like,
right.
No, it's not the same.
It's not. And it's that energy that's in the line and the weight and stuff when you're drawing, and it flows. It flows. Like I'm like a big fan of Milt Kahl and Glenn Kane and all these other guys, especially like any of the 9 Old Men. But Milt Kahl, just watching him work on like Aristocats and 101 Dalmatians and stuff, how that line work was still in there. It wasn't quite clean, but you could just see the thought and the work and and what he did to make that happen. And I love that. And that's what I like about animating on paper. It's like that energy is in there.
It was I was at a Thanksgiving dinner the other night, and they just put all this little Disney clips on repeat for the kids in the room, and I'm looking at it and start catching the line weight and stuff that I'd never noticed before. It's like it looked like, and maybe you know this, it's like it looked like when the Jungle Book popped up, it's like, did they stop doing like line work and just kind of like Xerox the sketches and then colored it? That's what it looked like.
Man, there was a few things. I think they probably started doing Xeroxing it, but one thing that I read was, it wasn't a lot of animators on that, and then they had tight deadlines, so it was like straight rough to color. To color. We don't have time. And that's why you get the real scruffy lines, and it's really rough, and you can still see some of the construction underneath because they didn't have time. So we have to get this done. So here's the animation. It's clean. It's as clean as it's going to get. Put it out. We gotta keep moving.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was looking at that going, like, how have I never noticed this before?
Yeah, it wasn't Snow White.
No, because I'm like, you look at that. Those beautiful little thin lines, and this is like, and I'm like,
just like, quick, go.
I'm like, don't get me wrong. It's. I still think that the Beauty and the Beast, the transformation, give me the rough pencil of that any day, not the finished movie. If you would cut to that in the middle of the movie, I'm good.
Yeah, I love looking at pencil tests. I go to Pencil Test Depot online.
Wow. Okay.
And I just, what? Oh my God. Tony, you got to go to Pencil Test Depot and look them up, because it's just pencil tests from like independent films, Disney films, anything. And they just show you the pencil tests, and they kind of break them down a little bit for you. And you could just watch them. Like, they have the Prince of Egypt on there, some Winnie the Pooh stuff. I think Treasure Planet is on there. I think there's some for that. And then there's stuff from Nocturna. They just have all these 2D clips, man. And it's all pencil tests, and it's amazing to see. Like, it's crazy. They even show you where you can still get like some traditional stuff. There's a link on there where I actually bought my animation paper from. It was like, they had a link to an animation studio that still sells the traditional stuff.
Oh, cool.
There too. So hopefully that link for the store is still up, but Pencil Test Depot is really good. Definitely check them out and look at all the roughs and stuff.
I am definitely going to go do that, because that's that one, like I said, that one thing that I think I don't get involved in enough of is that old school way. And I definitely do not own any paper. So it's been a minute. So, question: are you using? You mentioned Harmony. Are you using 21 yet, or are you using 20?
I'm still using 20. Okay. I've dabbled in 21 because I was like, I gotta play with that. But I'm still using 20.
Okay. So, what's your favorite tool in 20 or 21?
It's the brushes. It's the brush tool. There's a specific brush that I use, one in particular called a pipe cleaner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that is as close as I can get to like a rough pencil look. Okay. After you adjust like the opacity and your pressure and stuff, but it's the closest. It just has this nice pencil on paper look to it, even better than the pencil brushes that they have and the pencils that they have on there. I was like, this works. Charcoal comes really close, but pipe cleaner is like the one. I really like that. I really enjoy using that one.
My go-to is probably grain. Because it's like, to me, it just feels like, because especially when I'm showing beginners, I'm like, yeah, you got this nice clean vector line, right? Let's add some grain to that, because it just feels, because I mean, you've seen the old, like a lot of people when they try to do that, you can almost see where the pattern repeats. But this is just like grain comes, it's like, this good for you? I'm like, yes, it's nice. I like it.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the brushes on there. And I like how when I was messing with 21, I just like it feels better on the bitmap. when you have a bitmap player, it just feels better than than it does on 20. Like 20, it's nice, but on 21, I'm like, oh no, this is the exact feel that I was looking for. Like that's it. And the brush is still on there. And plus they're new brushes.
Yeah.
I was like, this is insane. I was like, you got a ballpoint pen brush, a pen on there, and it has like a little bit of pressure to it.
Yeah.
So if but it's based off the speed. So the faster you go, the thinner it is, just like you would with a regular pen.
Right.
And the slower it is, the more solid the line is. And that was just one thing I thought was really cool. And I was like, man, it's like people at Toon Boom, they really pay attention to what the users are asking for. And they really try to incorporate it in there to make it better for everybody.
I would agree, and I'm saying this, and I always joke about it because I usually say it when I do some training contracting for them, and I'll go, well, this is not just saying this because I'm getting paid, but or it's being recorded, or because they're one of our sponsors. Thank you, Toon Boom. But no, Toon Boom, to me, they are big enough to be awesome, but they're small enough to listen. So when like not just studios, but when individuals go, it'd be nice if we could have blah, unlike the that other company, and that other that used to be the 2D animation leader, animators, because I thought it was just me, and I'm thinking like, oh, I don't rank high enough to get a word in. But when you hear later that people like Adam Phillips was going, could you change this? And they're like, no, we're focused on mobile games right now until that blew up.
Right.
So yeah, I love the thing about where, and people always, and I've seen this in even in the Toon Boom social group that we're on Facebook, where people are, man, they need to do this. I'm like, then you need to reach out and tell them.
Exactly.
Well, I don't do that. I was like, well, you should reach out this way, because I'm thinking like, or you can just sit here and complain about it. It's like, because
so what do you want to do?
Yeah, I was like, because what I like is the JavaScript, the scripting and everything like that. It's like the one thing that I hated, especially when you're talking about rigging, is copying. If you got a hand, and then you've got the arm, or excuse me, the forearm, but you want to make sure that you got a peg for the hand, peg for the arm. Now, this is going to sound a little, maybe I'll put up a diagram of me saying this if I have time. Okay, so you got a peg for the head, peg for the arm, and then you're going to have a peg that can control the forearm and the hand. And you're like, okay, you got to copy these pivot points, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, the long way of doing that was like, okay, well, open this layer property, open the other layer property. I'm like, and somebody's like, well, I wrote a script for it. And then in 21, they actually put that in there where you just go, oh, it's just, you just add that script.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say, they started putting the scripts that I've seen for like 17 and for 20. I was like, it's already in 21. I'm like,
it's
finally.
there.
Because that copy and pivots thing, I just started rigging. Like I did my first rig because we're doing a project and we're using a 2D rig, a puppet. And I was like, man, this pivot moving thing, there's got to be a way. And I looked up the script and I found it. And then I was like, but 21 already has it.
Yes.
At a time before I jump right on 21.
Yes. That alone was just like,
yeah, I was like, they already got the script in there. It's just a matter of time. That'll probably be my Christmas gift to me.
I was teaching a class and we got to that part of rigging, and I said, and because I was teaching, I think 3 different classes at once, or 3 different groups, and I was like, refresh my memory again. Are you guys on 20 or 21?
Yeah, please.
This is either going to be a short class or a long class. It's like,
yeah.
I was like, you're on 20. Well, okay.
Long class it is.
It's good that you'll know the long way. Let's go to.
Yeah. So that way, if you run into a problem on the other, you're like, well, I could also go here.
Yes.
But yeah, man, those scripts are lifesavers. I'm not even gonna lie. The whole renaming the peg script and stuff.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's kind of cool. They're listening.
So, yeah, they are. That's something that really that I really like about that. It's like we're just not going to give you stuff, and if you have it, you have it. If you don't, well, figure it out. They're like, no, this is going to help your workflow. Let's see if we can incorporate that in and make it work. And I really like that about Harmony. I like that about Toon.
That, and I think they just released a patch. I just got an email that, especially if you're on the Mac, for 17, 20, and 21, they released patches that kind of made it work a little better with the latest OS. And I'm going, thank you.
Right. Awesome.
So, yeah. All right. My last question, I think, is, are your influences more contemporary or are they classic?
They're classic. They're definitely classic. Like growing up watching Tom and Jerry and Warner Brothers and old Disney shorts and stuff, that's what sparked my interest. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm doing. It's a lot of the work I do with my company is all traditional, very traditional stuff. Every once in a while, we'll jump in like After Effects and use like puppets and stuff. But if I can get in there and do something traditionally, I'll do it. And just because I love doing traditional work, and that's watching those old cartoons definitely influenced me big time. Big time. Yeah.
I am what was it? I found out I was more traditional or classic. I found out by accident.
By accident.
Because I kept drawing this particular style, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, it reminds me of the UPA stuff." And I'm thinking, like, the what? And I'm thinking it's one of those things that you know it, but you may not know it by name. So like the whole UPA style, I'm going like, oh my God, I love these. It's like,
Mr. Magoo and stuff.
Oh man, and Voodoo Toot Toot. Oh man,
yeah.
And so there was a project, and I want to get back into this where, and maybe I'll do it. Maybe I've been trying to figure out what I'm doing during the summit, what I'm doing live. What I'll probably do is go in, because some of the shots from Voodoo Toot Toot, I was playing around with saying, can I actually draw this out or recreate the scene? Which I know I can, but recreate the scene just even in Harmony Essentials. Because that's, I think, where a lot of people, if people are saying, oh, I just want to do the traditional stuff. I'm like, if you're not doing rigging or a lot of effects, then okay, yeah, you can probably get away with just working in essentials. But if you're talking about rigging out and doing production, you got to go the other way. But I still look at some of the classic stuff like that, or my argument is always if people are still doing, and I get in trouble for this argument, so it's like, I'm about to say something controversial, hear me out. I'm in no way ever saying that Harmony Essentials competes with Harmony Premium. I'm in no way saying that. I am saying, one, I steered away from Harmony Premium for years because the node view scared the crap out of me.
Node view is an intimidating beast.
But now I understand it now and I can use it. But the argument I always give to people is Harmony Essentials for production? No. But to the people who are still swearing and using Flash/Animate for production, I'm going, Harmony Essentials still blows you out of the water at the end of the day. A true 3D camera, the fact that you can nudge things back and forth on the Z-axis, the coloring system that's there, the bones that are there, and because I used to argue that where's the camera, and people were like, well, Animate has a camera, it's right there. I'm like, cool. And by the way, shout out to anyone. It's an open challenge. If you want to get on a Zoom with me, and I won't say anything negative, but you can bring Animate's camera, not After Effects, but Animate's camera, because you normally have to do everything over in Animate, then go, oh, we're going to composite. Let's go all the way over here to After Effects. But yeah, bring bring Animate's camera or Flash's camera in, and not a plugin, and
It's
compare it to
built
what's
in.
there. Because we're talking like that the a multiplayer that can knock out in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, we're done. I remember when you did a video on that, doing the what is it called? Not a panoramic. Not, you did a multiplane. You did like you did that, and I was like, wow, I got to call this guy because that was really cool. I was like, I got to know how he did that because one, I started out using Flash in college, and then we jumped to Toon Boom Studio,
right? And
then we went right back to Flash because Flash was the standard,
right?
And I was like, but there were so many things I could do in Toon Boom. Like I could put the camera on the peg and animate the where it's going and then see and tweak it as I needed. Whereas with Flash, it was like, no,
you're faking it.
Just move. You're faking it. You're taking the whole scene and you're moving it,
right? Rather
than having the camera do the work. And I was like, I've been sold on Toon Boom ever since. And I keep telling people, I've seen some amazing things done in Flash, but I'm like, but you can do all of that and more in Harmony. It's just that little bit. They take it to the next level where it's an actual animation program, whereas Flash never was. It was for like web stuff, web animations and stuff.
I think the other thing was the fact that, like I said, kind of getting used to that, and where I've watched a couple of people. There's where I watched. I'm trying to think. There is, I can't think of his name right offhand. But I've watched a couple of people where they're rigging and animating something in Flash, and I've gone back and watched those because like I still love watching rigging things. And I watched this and I'm going, man, if you could just come over to our side, because what you just did there, the last 15 minutes, that would have been a lot shorter because you're not having to trick the program into doing something. And again, this is going to sound there are going to be some haters in the comments. Man, it's just like a daggone Toon Boom infomercial, maybe. But it's like, yeah, you don't have to. I was joking with somebody. It's like Flash is like smack it, flip it, rub it down to get it to do what you want it to do, and you turn around and Toon was like, "Oh, that's all you want? You mean this?"
It's like, oh, sorry.
Here you go.
There you go. I didn't know you.
I didn't know you wanted that.
And, some people just have their workflow in that. They just understand it so well that they can get it done fast. And I've had this I won't say argument or debate or this conversation with friends who still use it, and it's like, well, Harmony just that learning curve, and I'm like, well, yeah, but learn it. Like you learn this, so learn that, so that way you can figure out how to incorporate both. Because I've seen people use both. And it usually works out well if you know what you're doing and what you're trying to do. But just learn it. Learn something.
It's like when I first was taught Flash, someone said this to me, and I use it when I talk about Toon Boom. They said Flash is not difficult. It depends on who's teaching you. And I would dare say the same thing about Toon Boom. And that's one of the things that you said earlier that off camera, you said I was busy. I'm like, I'm not as busy as I should be, because in the Justice League or the Avengers, however you want to look at it, as far as Toon Boom instructors that are out there, my superpower, I guess, as it were, is like it's bringing people on who are like just starting out, like we don't just let's get you there, because there's some of the other superheroes I know of, Stylish Rumble, Onion Skin, to name a few. Occasionally, because I've invited them and done webinars and chatted with them, and it'll be like, and they'll say stuff, and I'm going like, wait, what did you just say? I was like, I have no clue. I am not there, because they're at a certain level. Because again, they do a lot of production stuff, and I'm going, my job is to get you going. This is this tool. This is how to get this to work. And I will sit and have some popcorn and watch some of the other tutorials. But it's like, there is a steep learning curve, but I still argue that you can get in there and get some things going, things going pretty quick. without the craziness that I think there is in Animate.
Yeah.
And then you jump through all those hoops without much of a payoff.
Yeah.
No disrespect again to what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, it's the control. It's the having that control over things. That's my thing.
Speaking of control, and let me say this: anyone trying to start learning Toon Boom, I say this respectfully, but you'll see like, oh man, because someone actually reached out, like, hey, can you send me? Do you know where I can download some rigs? Sure, here. And I didn't realize that they hadn't really started learning the program yet. So I'm going like, that's not where you start.
Yeah, don't do that. It'll blow your mind.
That's like looking at view. Like looking at the behind the scenes of the America movie where they're on Netflix, and George Washington looks like he's glow in the dark with all the controllers and envelope deformers on him. I'm like, yeah, that's not where you start.
You don't want
bring it back.
Dial it all the way back, because that, like you said, that it's intimidating in that node view, because you can click on a part of the rig,
right?
But it's like, okay, but when you need to go in there and really get in there, that node view, you'll look at that and it's like some type of electrical box with all these wires and cords are going over, and you're like, well, what is that connected to? But I just want this thing. I just want this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my my journey, and I'm working on getting in there and getting my hands dirty with that and going, okay, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Nah.
And it's like, you'll learn that eventually, but let's go here. So
you're really good at that. I still have the notes from the first time you showed us Harmony. I still have those notes, and I was like, see, I can go back to them. I'm like, yeah, that still applies. Nothing. That still applies. How do I? No, that's it right there. That's
well, thank you. Yeah, it's like my whole thing of and I'll say this is speaking as a and I think you might understand the struggle when I mention this. I just saw a thing yesterday, because my whole thing is we've playing with money and not having enough money and stuff like that. I mean, went through an eviction, doing all this stuff over the years. All of my journey of trying to be this juggernaut. And I heard something yesterday that was like, I'm trying to say, how do you put? I can't even politely say this. Hell, I'll bleep it. Totally fucked me up. But it was like this simple thing. And this guy was talking. He said, a lot of people are saying, yeah, you want to work toward making about $10,000 a month. And I'm going, hell yeah. I mean, I know people. Shout out to one of the top Udemy instructors, Mr. Phil Ebner. Phil, on average, let's say, I always joke about this. If Phil made $20K in a month, he's had a slow month. So it's, yeah, Phil is awesome. Shout out to Phil. But this dude said a lot of people are trying to make $10,000 a month. But what if you change your focus? Can you help 10,000 people a month? If you can focus on that, you'll definitely make way more than 10,000. I was just like, whoa, because I'm normally going, well, how am I going to price this? And if I get this many, and if I do a pre-sale, and that's where my mindset was. But he broke it down and said, but if you can focus on helping 10,000 people a month, I'm going like, damn. It's like, and it really messed me up, because it was like, my focus has always been, well, this is how much rent is. And if I do 12 months of that, and it's like, And because I think to me, it made more sense than the old adage people say, do what you love and the money will come to you. This made way more sense. And I was just like, okay, let me work on that. Because
it's a different perspective.
Yeah. Like, how do I are there 10,000 people that could probably use, are there 10,000 people let's say in the US alone, not to mention worldwide, are there 10,000 people that are saying, I want to learn harmony, but it's too complex? And I'm going, I got you.
Right. Like, that's it.
And I got to get to, I was like, oh man. It was just like, what is it? I always tell people, if you're listening to a self-help book and you're not cursing out the author every 5 seconds, is it really helping you?
Right. Is it helping? Because you're like, no, you didn't say this. No. Wait, what do you mean? I've been, what? And it's just like, wow, I wish you would have known sooner.
Yeah.
But everything comes at the right time when you need it to. And that was one of those moments. And, you know, reaching out to 10,000 people, like to help 10,000 people, that's building relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's building relationships. And if you build those relationships and they're learning, well, then they're going to tell another 10,000 people. Right. And those people are going to tell another 10,000. I
know, right?
So that's how it works. If you focus, money is the byproduct of everything. Right. Money is the byproduct. It's not the goal. It's the byproduct.
I think my boy Sean Kay said it to me before. It's like, and it's hard to wrap it's like, what is it? Especially when you're going, but I need the money right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's like, and you're going like,
especially when it's right there and you're at your neck and you're like, yeah, I totally get it. But right now, though?
But right now.
I need that right now. So, and sometimes you'll go back to that, but yeah, you get to it.
It's like, man. Mm-hmm. So yeah, dude, this has been real. And I this is what I hate. Every year of doing this, I keep going, man, I should do a podcast. And I feel like I say it every year. I might be more focused to do it this year versus last year. Like, I look back to last year and trying to think, like, what was wrong? And I looked at how many people I had actually interviewed and edited the things, and like, no wonder you had a breakdown. Grief, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's so much. It's so much. It's so much. And
I was like, I handled this year a little better.
That's good.
I was like, I'm a little like, this is exactly what we're doing. This is. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, because I enjoy tuning in every year, and I sit there and I just like, no, I'm watching the summit because it's just amazing. You have so many awesome, talented artists, animators, and guests, and it's just always a joy to listen to, man. So I was like, being asked to be on, I was like, oh yes, yes, yes.
I'm looking at you. I see what you're doing out there. Because there's a couple of things I see you doing, and I'm like. Yeah, as I told you, I have to break out my Samuel L. Jackson thesaurus when I look at your work, man. I'm like,
really? I appreciate that. I appreciate it. When you said Samuel L. Jackson, there's only one word in his, his chapter.
Really?
I appreciate that, man. You know, I say this to everybody. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts, so we're called massholes sometimes. Okay. And this might sound a bit masshole-ish. But man, flattering will get you everywhere, bro. I thank you.
Man,
it'll get you everywhere, man. But yeah, I speaking of the work and stuff, it's when people see my work, everybody, I think every artist and animator gets this. What program did you use? What program did you use? Because my stuff is very traditional.
Right.
So when I'm animating, I'm like, no, it's Harmony. And they're like, well, how? Isn't it just for rigs? I'm like, if you want to use it for that, yeah. But it's still a tool to do animation. Right. It has an X sheet. Do you know how to use X sheet and charts?
Yeah. No,
Harmony has that. You could do that. Look, that's my shameless plug for them. Like, that's how you do it. You can do it in there, man. So yeah, like that's what I use it for. And I get that all the time. I'm like, no, it's just Harmony, man. I just like doing traditional work. So that's awesome.
Tari, man, this has been awesome. And because then we gotta do something.
Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you want to do. And if any way I can help or be a part of, or just really help and help push anything, just let me know, and I'll make time, and I'll be there.
Cool. All right. So this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit with Mr. Tyree Morrow. Greetings, dude, and I'm thinking we gotta, man. it's like I'm trying not to make this like me and Ollie and almost end up with a 2-hour interview every year. So
yeah. And we're sitting there like, yeah, keep going. Yeah. Because that's the juice, man. That's the
Man.
juice.
All right, signing off. Say bye, man.
See you later, guys. Enjoy your day. Have a good one. This has been great. I had a great time.
Alrighty, so I am back. Yes, and that was Mr. Tyree Morrow. Yes, definitely good stuff. It's fun hanging out with Tyree. Excuse me. I've got about a few more minutes before my voice goes completely out. So I'm going to rest for today. But before I do, oh Darren, thanks, appreciate it, man. Which, by the way, I think on tomorrow, I think I scheduled like the last, instead of like doing 4 interviews, there's 3 interviews, and the end of the day is more of demos and tutorials and stuff like that. Because we didn't have a lot of those this year. This year's like it's almost like a podcast. Like we can almost take everything and just kind of switch over just to audio. That being said, I still wanted to actually show some of the things, like little bits and pieces here and there. So, what I am about to do, I'm curious, Mr. Grillo, are you in the house at all? See if you kill me for starting early. Excuse me. So, what I'm about to do, trying to think. I'm curious, and this is not me. Not that I'm doing filler, but I am actually curious. What are you all if using, if anything, for 2D animation? Whether you're using TV Paint, Flash, if you're being like Mr. Chris Burns and using Flash MX, yeah, I want to know that too. Moho, Harmony, are you using Toon Boom Studio? Let me know what you're using. If you're not using anything, if you're saying, hey, I would like to use blah, but I'm curious, because there's a lot of stuff that's out there, and I think what's kind of cool is every year, kind of like the way it used to be with Macromedia and Adobe when they kept going back and forth, but every year, everyone keeps coming out with a new version of something. Like I did just see Chris Georginas posting something that it looks like Adobe's doing. I was like, that looks like an interesting bone system. And it's almost as if, because Toon Boom will do something and then Animate or Adobe will kick back and try to do something else. And they keep going back and forth. So I'm kind of curious. So Toon Boom for work, teaching, Animate for personal and indie stuff, Skipperwing, Rough Animator for iPad. Well, look at you. It's like, okay. Very nice. Still in Adobe Animate, but very green in Harmony. Okay. Howard, in case it's not being stated and understood, you know when you're ready to dig a little deeper, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm just saying, you know. So yeah, that's what I want to start doing. Also start doing definitely using what is that thing? True, I can see that. I definitely start doing some online classes, like little 3-hour workshops, because I know Toon Boom actually has some classes, and I know AJ Kote, he's my handler, as it were. Using Animate, but want to use Harmony, just can't afford it with the Adobe Suite right now. At Harmony, just for my last year of university, definitely miss it. Yeah, it's kind of a. I could definitely see going through a withdrawal. Okay, Toon Boom Harmony Premium. Okay, definitely cool. Coolness. I've been using Blender, but I've been meaning to look into Toon Boom. Okay, question to Dapper Wave. I'm because I've this is one of the things that I want to definitely reach out to. I know one of my colleagues does this. If anyone's using like grease pencil, definitely reach out to people like that. Yeah, I can say Howard. I'm like, hey, dude, you can like what? You can almost yell, and then I'll hear you. Let me know when. Mainly using Animate and After Effects. Learning Harmony, it's so good. Also dabble with Moho, and I don't know if I actually use Kakani. Kakani for auto betweens for lack of features. And ooh, okay, yeah, I don't know if I've actually heard of that one. Teaching intro to 2D animation turned me on to Toon Boom, but I'm a noob. Proper digital animation rigs, nodes. I need to binge learn it for the next year. Skipper Wing. That's what we almost need to do. I need to do what is her name? Wow. The Bird Brain. I need to do what she does. And maybe we just need to start doing a little hangout thing where I'll pick a day out of the week and we'll just kind of go through stuff and make stuff. And go, yeah, this is how you do this, and this is what trips you up here. You know, maybe we can do something like that. Because again, I know the software well enough to do that. I definitely know the yes, there are. I was trying to get her on the show. We kept missing. She was on last year. I was trying to get her on this year. But I'm going to see if I can bug her more. Cool, Skipper Wing. Appreciate you, sir. But yeah, man. But I want to start diving into that. Maybe there's like a little short thing every weekend, and then one weekend. I think what's it? A 3-to-4 ratio, right? 3-to-4 ratio, 3 to shit. So maybe do a couple of them that are just like sleep. What is that, Darren? I have no clue. I have a Toon Boom question. Which method of exporting character animation is better? PNG sequence or an MP4 with plain color background that will be chroma keyed in After Effects? Well, depending on what version of Harmony you're using. PNG sequence, yes, you can do that with transparency, but I know with the latest you can actually do a Apple ProRes, and that's on Mac and PC, and you can tell it to have an alpha channel. So, all right. Now, by the way, let me jump back to Barry for a second. Barry, I will say this: I had a client that they were trying to take their animation and use it over in what is it called? Camtasia, and Camtasia, of course, isn't going to. You can't bring in anything with a transparent background, and you can't bring in a PNG sequence. So what do? I used a 255 green, so it's like a perfect green, and brought the character over into Camtasia, and told Camtasia to knock out the green screen that way. So that's where I did use green screen. But other than that, you should actually have the option to export. Using Apple ProRes. Ali would probably be the most inspiration to Harmony. What he does with that master controller is crazy. Yes, and shout out to Ali because we were talking about this, where his work, I love and hate Ali at the same time, because again, he is really good tutorials, and then he actually did. He's putting out of the book. If you haven't actually, which wait a minute, I got to double check. I have to double check the schedule. I think he's one of those days is coming through. But he's really good with that. And then on top of that, if you're following him on Patreon, it's like $5 a month, but you get access to his book, which is, I think it's over 500 pages currently, teaching you harmony. What I hate and love about him is the tutorials are great, and the design of the book, it's really, really good. Because a lot of times people know how to teach the software, but then they put it together. It looks like it was made in Microsoft Word. This thing, the book looks so well designed. It's like, oh man, I hate you. So it's like, yeah, all is awesome. Definitely worth it. Heavily. Yes, give Apple ProRes a try. It's pretty nice. Back in my day, you had to use the animation codec, and I think that's been retired. Yeah, definitely. How Ollie's book is one of those things that it's on my list of things I need to keep looking up. Excuse me. Um, Skipper Wing. Honestly, reach out to Ollie and ask. He might say, "Hey, how he might be able to say," and I'm not saying he's going to say yes or no, but again, it's one of those things of you don't know until you ask. And I will say that about almost everything. Where I used to be this way, I think, early in my career, and I slacked off from it because I started fearing everything and going, "But what if they say no? What if this? And what if this? And what if this?" But I had to get into that point of what's the worst they can say is no. So while saying that is, I am one person that said I want to do this summit, and then we did it the first year. The second year, had some conversations with Toon Boom, and they're like, I was like, y'all want to sponsor? Because that would be cool. And then reached out to Wacom, because again, what can they say? No. So when it comes to your asking people, you know, so you just have to reach out there and just try it. And don't be afraid to try. I have to tell myself that constantly because trust me, I still have a lot of ideas that I haven't pushed out there yet. So. Meanwhile, okay, I'm going to dive into the next movie and we'll be back shortly.
Got it. All right.
Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am with my good friend, brother, Bad Tony, Mr. Tony Grillo. What's up, dude?
Oh, what's up, good Tony? Good Tony, keeping it good as always.
Trying to, man, trying to.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Faces nearly enough. We're usually one of us either doesn't have a camera on or we're doing screen share. So
yes, like look at my screen. Hey,
look at my screen. Look what I'm doing.
What are you drawing? What are you animating?
I don't want to miss this.
Yeah, man. So how's life going? I want to say you look happier. You're gaining weight. You're catching up with me, dude.
I'm gaining. I am gaining. There's no doubt about that. Well, I've been spending a lot of time in Italy, so my career has been sort of, I would say like shifted, but it's definitely evolved. It's expanded on one side and maybe contracted a little on the other from production to training, right?
Yes.
So I've been very fortunate to have developed a good relationship with Toon Boom, and they send me down to Italy to train for the Sardinian Film Commission, and I've been working with some really amazingly talented people there, and of course
it's Italy, which means there is virtually no bad food. And I have absolutely no self-control. So I've been having pizza for breakfast. I've been having pasta for lunch. You know, it goes that way. So,
dude, I'm in my current condition. I'm glad it's you in Italy and not me, because I'd be like, well, I haven't tried this yet. Well, I've tried this, but I haven't tried it at this restaurant or this one,
right,
or this one. I like the other one better. I'll go back over here.
You know, it's funny. Like when I moved to Europe 2 years ago, I made a conscious decision to only to live in, I should say, places where I won't need a car. I don't want to drive anymore if I can help it. If I come back to the States to visit, I may have to. I get that, but I don't. And just to remind myself, I occasionally will watch one of those YouTube videos of like car crashes. And I'll sit there and be like, oh, you know, like, and that's it. Like, but when you go to Italy, it's even worse. I mean, I'm Italian, you know, born in America, but I come from Italian drivers essentially, and I understand the perpetual road rage and all that, those things that I don't want to feel anymore. So yeah, I make sure that whatever I do, I'm either walking or biking. So that's, you know, curtailed the you know, the effects of eating so much a little bit. And, you know, even when I'm in Italy, I make sure, you know, I've got at least a 5-10 minute walk just to get my blood flowing. Then I'd move around a lot while I'm teaching as well. So it's not helping. It's not like getting rid of anything, but it is amazing. And it is, you know, I think it is one of the keys to happiness. I staying off the road, first of all, it does a couple of things. One, it removes that, you know, obviously the road rage aspect of things. But, you know, and related to that is just like, two is just not remaining disconnected by, you know, a couple of glass walls between each other. Watching people behave so differently the way they drive, like Goofy in that famous cartoon, you know, like he just becomes this completely different person. And this was, you know, 80 years ago, they made this cartoon, something like that. And they already understood the effects of automobiles and that distance that they create between people. So there's this, you know, there's a lot of data or just, you know, sort of understanding that like being able to walk around and bike around puts you more in touch with other people and is actually partially responsible for making you a happier person.
That is really cool.
Running with that, or riding with that, if you will.
Riding with that. So I got a couple of questions for you. One, and definitely congrats on the teaching gig, because it's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm teaching Toon Boom. Yeah, cool. In Italy, bastard.
With a pizza in one hand. What?
All right, so let me ask you this question. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about becoming an animator?
I think the biggest misconception, and maybe misconception is not the word, but you know, underestimation, is how much drawing you are expected to do as an animator if you want to be good. Maybe the misconception here would be that that when you get into being an animator, that I'm done. It's like being a doctor. I'm a doctor now. I don't have to learn anything else. And then if you don't, people will die, because, you know, medicine is always changing and new things are always being revealed. Same with animators. Animators are like, I think they don't see themselves as athletes nearly enough, but that's what we are. We have to behave like athletes. We have to always be doing the exercises, always be training, always be getting better, always be drawing, always be learning new tools, right? We've talked about this before. One of the things that I think people don't realize about being an animator, and this might be a little more niche, but it is just like being an author nowadays. You don't have like a publisher that's out there promoting for you unless you're a big, huge writer. you're the one who's got to pay for those trips to all the different bookstores in the region and sit down and write the books, and you have to arrange most of that yourself. Being an animator is a lot of self-promotion. It's a lot of marketing. If you want to, it just depends on what degree of animator you want to be. If you want to be an independent animator with a following, right? There's a lot of people who would love to have their own YouTube page that's doing really well. And that's great. There's a lot of people who do that very well. But you do have to develop your marketing skills, your self-marketing skills. And, we've heard this many times before about animators, that animators are actors, right? They are. When you're doing animation, you're creating an animation, you have to be an actor. And this is another, what I would say is a big, and not misconception necessarily, but just something people don't seem to understand, is how important it is to embrace that role as an animator. To get up out of your chair, act it out. You hear this all the time, act it out, right? I still have to remind people, and I see the improvements in their work when they do, and I see the deficiency in their work when they don't. And you have to embrace the actor side. And now that is true also of marketing yourself. And again, to whatever degree, you can certainly get a job in a big studio and just hide in your cubicle and do great work, and you'll be recognized by the people you work with, and that's great. And that you can make a career out of that, absolutely. But if you want your designs, your creations, your properties to carry you forward and carry your career forward, if you're depending on that, you have to be, like an author has to be now, the person out there, the face of the organization, making efforts. We spoke about Joanna Davidovich. She's really great about this. She's, you see her that she's doing an online drawing party or answering questions, that kind of thing. She's really good about marketing herself in those moments when I happen to be online on social media and I happen to see what she's doing. I'd like to see, I think, more animators embrace that a little bit more. If they really want to move up to being, directors, if they want to move up to being show creators, that kind of thing, that's really going to have to be a part of the package now, is marketing yourself first and your properties and services second.
I would have to definitely agree with that. I was just chatting with my wife about having to, one, do a social media audit, and then perhaps hiring someone to handle it. It's like, can you, here's some stuff. Can you put it in places and do the things?
Because if you do it yourself, you'll get it right eventually. The hours that you spend not getting it right could be spent doing something else.
Right. It's like, I could be making more, for instance, doing tutorials, and it's like I could be doing that or working on my own little thing. I'm like, let me hand this over to someone who knows what they're doing. Do the thing on all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, you want to do a service trade if you could. It would be such a nice way to look. Wouldn't you love to have some kind of design animation services, within the context of your business, and I could use it. But the truth is, animation is still one of those things. It's like the candy, it's not necessarily, it's dessert in a way. It's not, if you're going out for dinner, maybe you'll have dessert, maybe you won't. Not everybody really needs animation when they know that they can do this with video or simple graphic design or even, motion design. So it does get lost a bit that, it's really hard to go out there and do a service swap. Hey, let's try, and in some ways you're kind of better off, because imagine trying to manage the value of yourself versus how somebody else values you when they weren't looking for animation in the first place, right?
Good point. Yeah, give me the money. I'll figure the other part out.
Let's keep the economy going. Yeah, it's tough, and this is, obviously that larger conversation about what is your value, right? How do people, I can't tell you how many people I've said, all right, I'm going to hire you, blah, 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 send me an invoice, or what's your rate? And they don't know their rate. They don't know their hourly rate. And sometimes it's because they're new in the business. Sometimes it's just because they've always worked for somebody else and they've, received a paycheck and they don't really know what they're doing as a freelancer, right? But I think that's an important thing that people, should start really figuring out, not only what their hourly rate is, but how to use that understanding to bid a project. And
Right. I had, when I was teaching college, I was literally sitting in a classroom with my students, and I guess it was their free time or whatever, but one kid was working on this logo, and he goes, "Hey, Tony, how much should I charge for a logo?" And I said, "Are you asking me how much you should charge for the logo you're working on?" And I was like, that conversation should have happened long before you started this. What the hell are you doing? But yeah, it's that figuring out, and it's crazy. The first time I had to raise my rate as a trainer, like doing an independent trainer, I can't remember where I read this, but I literally had to stand in front of the mirror and go, my name is Tony Ross. I do this. This is what I charge per hour. And I had to say it out loud to convince myself, yes. And I think at the time, because if anyone's watching this, they're going to be, well, what was it? At the time, it was, this was maybe 10 or so years ago, but it was around 65 an hour that I was charging. And right. I remember this woman that called me. She wanted me to train her daughter. And we're on the phone, and I'd practice. And so, and she said, what's your rate? I said, I charge 65 per hour. And I was just like on the phone like this. And they said,
I hope that sounded better than it felt.
Yes. And they go, okay. And I was just like, okay. Good. Thank you. So yeah. It's always interesting. Yeah. Know your rate and know your worth and be okay with that. I got to work that back into my meditations about doing stuff.
Yeah. And look, there's going to be consequence. I was telling you earlier, I raised my rate back in the spring. I'm 2 clients less now. And I don't think it's necessarily just one thing. I think I've also been devoting a lot more time toward training. And that has made it difficult for me to just be always available, always, that's the weird thing about being a freelancer. The kind of clients that you work with, they're great. I love my clients, all of them that I've kept actually. But the couple that I don't have anymore were the kind of clients that expected you to always be available to them, even though they weren't hiring you full time. They were hiring you hourly. They had this kind of work that I don't know if I'm going to be working 6 hours on this project or 26 hours on this project because I don't, you haven't really familiarized me with your approval system. I don't know if this is all getting approved by you first and then going to your client for a whole bunch of new changes.
Yes.
I don't, if you're not involved in the process of communication between your client and the end client, if that's, how you work, which is typically my situation, then, you don't have any real control over that, and you're not getting the information that might help you, get a little bit closer to what they're looking for. It's getting filtered through that in-between person, and that in-between person, the solution that they see for that is just to have you keep doing it until they think it's good or until, whatever, it gets done. So you have no way of predicting how many hours you're going to work. And to me, that's, the contract there is then, you have to get me when I'm available. I will be available to you. Of course, I will make openings all the time as much as I can, but I can't guarantee you I will always be available. And when I started to teach, that's something you show up for at a certain time and you do it. You can't push it until later on or tomorrow. It has to be done at that time. And that made my schedule less flexible. I was less able to simply stop everything I was doing and work for, an hour or two on a project. And it's amazing the backlash I received from that. And this, again, all happened at the same time I was raising my rate. And I'm not talking a lot here. I'm talking like 20%, if that, maybe 15 to 20%. So it definitely, it hurts. It can go wrong when you try to improve your own situation. In this case, I was developing a steady gig, and I was I was making my rates a little nicer, a little more appropriate for the cost of living. And it just, it did not go well with some of those clients. Some of those clients just want somebody that's going to be inexpensive and always available. And unfortunately, you can't do that all the time. You can do that for maybe 20 years, but after a while, it's just going to have effects on your health, and you got to make changes.
Agreed. That whole little, I was young, I needed the money.
Yeah.
So it's like, and now we got to operate. I'm old and I need the money.
I'm old and I need the money.
I'm going to up my rate.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. As far as projects go, do you prefer working like on more kid-friendly projects, or do you prefer to work on adult projects, and why?
From a creative standpoint, I prefer to work on the adult projects. In other words, if I'm taking a more a role at the front end of the creative pipeline, where I'm writing or doing storyboards, I definitely prefer the adult stuff because it's just more free. It's not writing for kids appears to be a very simple thing, and in a way, it is. In a way, especially when you get to the production part, can be a lot more simple. But there are restrictions, and there are things you have to know, because nothing that you create for kids, can be completely devoid of educational content. So you always have to keep that in mind. You're always in a sort of a teaching mode in a way, and that means that you're, it just changes the role, changes the voice that you're speaking in. By speaking, I mean, creating, whatever.
Right.
So that freedom and that, ability to stretch out and push the limits of comedy or whatever I happen to be, whatever the extreme is much, much, much more fun on the adult stuff. That said, the production side of things, kids stuff is always going to be a lot more forgiving. Get away with a lot simpler layouts, setups, production pipeline, designs. The animation doesn't have to be as, and they don't want that. Like, they want that level of simplicity. They want it to be something kids can, embrace on a very warm and straightforward level. So I think if I were going to choose one over the other, I would choose kids animation for the purpose of, say, training for, a crew that's the young crew that hasn't produced a lot of content yet and needs experience, right? Kids programs are great for that because you can lay down a certain set of rules. It's easier to follow those rules. The adult stuff, that's where you're really going to have to flex your muscles and pull in people with like a lot of experience that can, or it'll be something like, I don't know, South Park or something where
I was thinking South Park would be the exception to that rule. I was like, yeah.
South Park. There was a show called The Life and Times of Tim on HBO about 15 years ago.
It's yeah, I do remember it because it's on HBO Max or whatever, or whatever.
Oh, is it on Max?
Or not Mac or whatever. Is it called HBO Max? Something.
Yeah, I think so. It's funny, I haven't.
But yeah, I look at that and I remember as a young, even before I started education, when I started looking, I first saw things like Beavis and Butthead, and I remember being a kind of arrogant, I guess, but I was like, they're going to hear me out. It's like, they're going to ruin animation. What the hell is this crap? And I remember looking at it, and then I still feel that sometimes where I talk to colleagues of mine who are building these beautiful things and are doing this independent animation, and I go, that's great, but you're building out stuff as if you have a studio behind you helping you knock this out. It's just you. Dial it way back because meanwhile, you've got this crap that took someone 5 seconds to put out, and I'm sorry, they now have toys, and their thing now has toys in Walmart.
Yeah.
And that's not made up. I don't want to call out the name of the thing. I don't, because I try to be respectful, but there was I'll just say this, and so the people who actually are watching this, you might know what I'm talking about. There was a YouTube series, and they called it Animation, of a piece of annoying fruit, and we'll just say that. And I'm like, that's not even animation. That's you're just putting your mouth on, you're compositing. There's no lip sync. You're actually talking. And I remember going, that's the goofiest thing I've seen. And I come back a couple months later, and it's like, why are there views through the roof?
Why are there 70 million views on this? Yeah. On this one.
And then I come back later. Oh, it's going to be on Cartoon Network or one of the things. Are you kidding me? That's not a cartoon. And then I'm literally walking in Walmart one day, and I see their toys, and I'm going, I'm trying not to curse because I don't feel like bleeping it out. But I was like,
I can't believe they had toys. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they did. And I think you know which one I'm talking about. So that is always my argument of, yeah, we can do all this gorgeous stuff, but my thing is always trying to figure out, especially as an independent animator, what can you knock out as like one or two people? Can you give something consistent? Because what they did, I looked, and I was like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? Every week they had an episode.
Right.
It's like, figure out what you can you do something in a week? Even if it's 10, 15 seconds, can you do something every week? Can you work on your big behemoth in the background? Sure. But the thing that's, going to be consistent. Again, to bring up Joanna, she was worried. She had said something about worrying about when she does come up with her thing, are people going to be still interested? And, has the time already passed by? I said, but you already have an audience, so they're always going to be looking. So she's doing this thing. Hey, I'm drawing this, and hey, I'm drawing that. So it's like, yes, it's awesome because you're keeping your audience. Meanwhile, eventually, when you do come up with your thing, you have an audience that's going to be like, oh, cool. I know you because I've been watching you do all these things. And I think that has to be there. It's the argument of, what is that? The argument of, allegedly the story was when with Warner Brothers, they're working on, it takes them no time to do a Coyote and Roadrunner. This is back in the day.
Right.
And so they said, boss is like, what are you guys working on? Doing a Coyote and Roadrunner. Awesome. Keep it up. Next week, what are you working on? We're doing a Coyote and Roadrunner. And they did that like several weeks back to back. They're doing What's Opera Doc. And once What's Opera Doc was done, they knocked out a couple of the Roadrunner.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, and I was going like, I said, that's freaking brilliant.
Yeah. They were, there was a really weird oversight. What was it? Was it Schlesinger? I'm trying to remember the guy who was in charge then. He used to go by just to make sure he could hear the, he'd go by the writer's trailer just to make sure he could hear the keys clacking, clack, 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 clack. And then he heard that, he was happy. And they had like a light. I think somebody had like a light in the front of the trailer of the animation, mm-hmm. and they would push the button. And when he pushed the button, like everyone would sit down, pretend like they were working their asses off. And, while they were like having paperclip fights and stuff like that. But, that's that mentality of the non-creative creative producer. It's just, I don't know how this works. So I'm just gonna, make sure people are working all the time. It's not about the result. It's about what you see day to day. And I've never been the kind of person that takes pleasure in that. I as a leader, or if I'm in charge of a project, I'm all about the results. Show me the results. Have you been doing drugs? Great. What does your animation look like? Okay, good. You know, I don't care. I don't care. If you're able to function and do great animation, and on a more, reasonably, I think, important note, it's, can you do this and not kill yourself doing it? Like, that's obviously a big deal to me, because
Right.
you take on that role. I mean, you can't be in a creative industry without having an emotional connection to the people you work with and the fun, the things that you're creating. So,
Right.
you
I
wind
was
up.
telling you that you have, when it comes to creative people, and the creative people that I know, everyone that I know has some superpower, some amazing talent, the people that are in my circle. And look a little closer, each of them have their own independent drama. And the goal is, and this is to any person in the industry, make sure your drama never overshadows your talent. So I was joking. Matter of fact, I'll mention our buddy DeMarcus, and I love DeMarcus. And I was chatting with another buddy of ours, and I said something about DeMarcus and I were having this conversation, and this person said, I don't like what DeMarcus said there. I said, no, that's cool. I was like, no, I don't like the way he talks to you. And I was like, I know what DeMarcus brings to the table. Yeah. DeMarcus could call my mother out of her name 3 or 4 times, and I'd be like, dude, don't do that, because I know what he brings to the table. It's that argument of we had a buddy of ours, and that when I worked in corporate, and we were talking about that same thing. He was on a level, his work was pristine on a level that he could literally probably walk down the aisle of the office just urinating. And we'd be like, dude, James, we're going to set a coffee can in your corner. Can you please not do that? It's like, what are you bringing to the table? Like, how good are you?
Like, it would be nice to have both the talent and a well-adjusted personality to go with it, right?
Yes, but we're artists.
Sometimes. But those people generally wind up working at, Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar. You know what I mean? They get those sweet gigs because they are low drama and they are high, talent. So I'm not one of those people. So I definitely have more drama than, and less talent, I think, than it would take to work at a Pixar. But it's, you sign on for that when you're an independent producer. You realize, I'm going to be working with some strong personalities, and we're going to have, it's going to lead to some kind of stress, some kind of strife. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be fighting, but you'll be dealing with something above and beyond, the straightforward creation of a product. But if they share your passion, if they share your desire to put out a good project, you've already won. I mean, it's maybe a tougher road, but you're already ahead with that. I had a guy like that. It's amazing. He was like a recovering drug addict, that grew up in the LA in the 70s and 80s, former like crazy punk rocker guy who had really just started adopting, himself into design and animation for the web. And he was like one of my earliest hires as Flinch Studio. And I loved him. I did. I loved him. He was so much work, though. He always was that guy that was just on the line, but, that's when it sort of became necessary for me to become a little less attached to him, because I knew he was a valuable person to have at the studio. I knew that he was happy at the studio and therefore, would always make an effort to try to, tamp down any, abrasiveness that he brought to the studio. He loved the other people that he worked with. They loved him. And I didn't want my position of being like, I have to make sure we're making a profit. I have to make sure we're not doing anything that's going to endanger other people or endanger the company, get us lawsuits, get us in trouble. It certainly wasn't as likely then as it probably is now. But still, that meant I couldn't be in the trenches with him every day, because I wouldn't be approaching him the same way as when it was just me and him and a couple of other people. Now it was like I had to think about this bigger picture, and if I was too intimately close to him, it would have meant, becoming probably less fun to be around me, and whatever. So, and of course, when the time came, we started working with Tim Burton. Like, he was the guy that Tim attached to immediately. Like, the two of them were like the little buddies, like sitting on the couch drawing sketches and stuff. And he really just threw himself into that project in a way that nobody else would. And so, I was like, I'm glad we did things this way. I'm sad that I don't have my friend that I could spend as much time with him as I could before. But I think that was the best way to make sure we were going to survive as a studio, not just, a couple of dudes making cartoons,
That's like, and that's the other thing, the other weird part about that now, the beast of social media, where you have to be careful. And where I heard a young lady talking the other day, and they were talking about working somewhere, and they felt that, why do I have to pretend to be someone that I'm not? I want to be my true self. And I'm thinking, like, this is going to sound very ageist. Like, how young are you? It's like, are you new here? You don't get to be yourself. It's like, what is wrong with you? But when I think about where people get very polarized conversations, it can even be about veganism or cows, hot dogs, whatever. Everyone has this little thing that they get on. And like, I had to learn the hard way to avoid certain things, or even when I would post something political. The funny thing was, because I was talking about, because there are algorithms, and someone would say to me, well, because I'm always posting everything. If you follow me on social media, it's like, it's weird. It's this weird hodgepodge. It's like, nobody posts the craziest stuff. And it's like, yes, I know a lot of crazy people, and everything is they're interested in. And so someone was saying something to me about trying to figure out what my political views are. And I said, my actual political views aren't on social media. They're barely said out loud anywhere near my phone. Right. And I'm like, and I'm being serious with that. The only person that might know technically where my political views are is my wife. It's like, so yeah, and I say that because you and I both know I've seen several situations, I've been involved in several situations where people kind of go really off the deep end, and it's like, dude, you're live on social media.
Yeah. And
I had an issue where someone was not only doing that on Facebook, and then it progressed to them doing it on LinkedIn. I'm like,
oh, it's not who I think it is it?
It is. But so it's like, and I was going like, you realize we're on LinkedIn, right? This isn't the party room. This is LinkedIn. This is literally
literally where you have a recent post saying that you are desperate for work.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's like, you can't. And this is what I will say to anyone watching. If you do happen to follow me on Facebook, know that is not quote unquote real Tony. That is the reason I initially got on Facebook. Was I was job hunting at the time, and I was told that that's one of the ways people actually get jobs, and not even just an animation job. This is just a job in general. And so I came up with a simple rule. My Facebook and a lot of my social media is business under the guise of being personal. It's like, oh yeah. So I'm very careful, a lot more careful than I used to be, of what I'm stating and what I'm not stating, or what I like and what I don't like. If you're close enough to me, there's not really anything that's crazy inappropriate, like a bad humor or a bad video that I'm posting to my timeline. But if you know me, I might send it to you in Messenger. Like, I'm not putting this on my line, but have you seen this? Oh my gosh.
I know. And sometimes I'll get things on Messenger from you or DeMarcus, and I'll be like, Oh, that's not something they would have posted. Well, maybe DeMarcus would have posted it on his page. But
DeMarcus, we love you, dude.
This is not typical Tony stuff, you know. But it's no,
but yeah, it's like
always appreciated. I haven't gotten those in a while from either of you, actually. I know I'm terrible at contributing. That's the other thing I feel like about social media is like my contribution is so limited that you only are going to get like, hey, there's a picture of me in Venice. Hey, you know, like I live in Venice. I don't. It's just happened to be a great weekend, a great time I was just elated to share. And I typically share on Facebook. It is a business development, forum in a way. I have gotten some work. I just finished an animated spot that I got from a referral from somebody else I did work for that I knew through Facebook. You know, like it's indirectly become a very valuable tool as well. But I primarily post there for people that I consider to be either family or, extended family. It doesn't mean I don't want to embrace any, semi-strangers that I've made Facebook friends with. Sometimes those people become your good friends because they see your personality there. So I don't like to pull back too much on who I really am there. But you're right, like those first few years when politics was all like, it was Twitter at that time, everyone was yelling about politics on Facebook. Now I've learned a lot, just like, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not, you don't use Facebook just to vent, you got to find another place to do that. Maybe that's what Twitter's for. And I don't even do that, but it's just become like, I want to share fun, happy. This is my place to be vapid and, fun, but also, hey, look at the cool stuff we get to do from time to time. And, I do feel like, a lot of people describe it this way, and I'm guilty of like showing off your life as if you've got this great life. And, this is like, you're not really seeing the real life of Tony here. You're seeing the life I want you to see, and it looks great and it looks fun. The truth is, I think everybody does that to a certain extent. I'm certainly guilty, but I have to say right now, life is pretty awesome. And I think what I post on Facebook is what I would like to see in my own life. It's real, it's there, but because I'm a person who gets grumpy, because I'm a person who has trouble being, grateful for what I have, and forget my privilege and forget my, how just generally fortunate I am in this world. I put that stuff on Facebook, and then I go back and look and go, I had a freaking really great time last summer. I shouldn't be complaining about a damn thing. So what if I got ripped off when I bought that beach blanket for €20 when I could have easily gotten it for 10? Look at us all. You can have the backstory behind every Facebook post. You wouldn't want to be on Facebook anymore.
Yeah, it's like
television. It wants to see people having a lousy, unresolved problem on television. They want to see a half hour where everything gets wrapped up nicely.
Love it. It's like the I think what's the word I was thinking? It almost feels like I want there to be like that, as you said, that the little happy ending, and it's like everything is great, or where the person does they're at the interview, and it was this woman, and she has this beautiful white blouse and this black blazer on, everything like that. But they pull the camera back. It's actually a pair of her black pants that she's draped over her shoulders.
Oh, like, nice! That's great.
And it's like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And
I
then, think
like newscasters, you find out that I used to tend bar. They'd come in, I'd be like, so where's your suit or whatever? They're like, we don't wear a whole suit. I'm wearing shorts. Sometimes I've done broadcasts in my underwear if I didn't have any clean pants. I don't stand up, so it's fine. Look, it's just you don't really think about it, but of course you know this to be the case. And this is something that's funny. This is actually, I think everybody, here's another thing. To go back to the first question about, what do misconceptions about animation. I think it's important as an animator that you look at all film, and not just look at the films, but see how they were made and see the way that reality connects to them. I was working with a storyboard artist, and she's actually a background artist, but she was building backgrounds based on storyboards that I had done, and we were kind of working through the layouts together. And she's really a great artist, but she kept trying to apply logic to this process. And like, how could the puddle of dog pee be in this shot here, and then when you cut to this other shot, the wall is a different color, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, a few times I would be like, well, it's actually two puddles, and now they're cleaning this one instead of this one. Oh, okay. But after a while, I had to tell, like, look, you have to stop thinking about the broader logic of this and start thinking about just getting it far enough to where you're not letting the audience get taken out of the moment. You've had time to sit and look at this and analyze it. The audience has not. The audience wants a story. The audience wants a linear narrative that they can follow. They're not going to compare, the wood paneling from one shot to another and ask themselves, I wonder if that was one or two puddles of dog pee. Like, it just, but it was amazing how difficult that was to sort of like have that conversation and say, like, these are not important things. They're important if that's the story you're trying to tell. If you're trying to tell a real story with real, like a documentary, if you will. We get that all the time. I used to be like, we did that series for Yahoo, which was called Pop Culture Theater, and we did a piece on Nirvana and a piece on Guns N' Roses and a piece on Prince, and we did, we had all these really funny little weird cartoons, and they were riddled with historical accuracies because they were written by journalists, right? We were the ones who had to make it funny. The journalists were just literally telling things, but then when they wrote a joke, they would sort of change what actually happened, because that's what comedy is. It's, partially, I should say, comedy is truth, but it's building truth into whatever reality you create, right? So we would get all these comments on YouTube, like, that didn't really happen. That's not how Kurt met Courtney. That's not how, Axl Rose pitched the concept for that music video. And I'm like, I always go in there, like, for the first year or two, I don't do this anymore, but I would write in the comments, it's not a documentary, it's a cartoon. It's just enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, I understand. You don't have to watch it. I'm not disparaging your beloved Guns N' Roses. They're fine. They're still safe. Tony Grillo hasn't done any damage to their reputation that they haven't done to themselves. This is just about, sharing something together, enjoying a story, enjoying a moment. But there's this tendency among new animators or really logical thinking people that, to ask why, how could this be? Why is that? And it's not bad. Like, do it, ask the question. Why not? Like, sometimes it's a question that has to be answered, or else it's not going to work. But, I think people just have to learn how to be a little more fluid when it comes to the idea of what the difference between storytelling and, documentary making, I guess, which is still a form of storytelling.
Okie doke. So, welcome to the end of day 3. As promised, if you're hanging out, we are fortunate enough to have, what's the word I'm looking for? Now a word from our sponsors. We are fortunate enough to not only have one awesome sponsor, we actually have 2 awesome sponsors. So, besides Tony Teach, but that's kind of me, so there's that. Both Wacom and Toon Boom Toon Boom's donated some software for us to raffle off. Thanks, Skipper Wing. as well as Wacom has some things for us to wrap off. So I'm going to be doing some of the Wacom stuff tomorrow, but excuse me, as I'm losing my voice, I'm going to hold on. So I'm going to go ahead and announce some names. And the way this works, do you have to be here? No. What's going to happen? Darren, thanks. I appreciate it. We had a couple of technical snafus, but I'm going to draw these two names, and then I'm going to go bye-bye. So I'm going to draw one name for... I'm going to give away a copy, a annual subscription, an annual license, as it were, for Storyboard Pro. And let me see. Clark Griswold, drum roll. Okay, Joanna Blake, or Johanna Blake, I'm not sure which way, but and I'm calling this name out right now. Again, you don't have to actually be here. I will be sending out emails, and the way we're trying to work this is, if I send you an email, it'll be coming from Tony at tonyteach.com. If I send you an email that says, hey, you've won some software, it's not a scam. You've got about, I think it's what we did, like, I want to say 48 hours to get back to us to go, yes, I would like the software. And especially with the software, we do need to get back your name, address, and email. Yes. And definitely when we start doing the Wacom stuff tomorrow, that we're definitely going to need your address for, because they're going to have to ship stuff to you. So, yeah. What's happening with, what are we giving away with Wacom? Huh. Anyway, I'll tell you about that in a second. Let me not lose my focus. Okay, so either Joanna or Johanna Blake, you have won a copy of Storyboard Pro. And let me move that up for a second. Let me go find this other person. Alrighty. Alright, so going through my little random list here. Am I tripping? Maybe. Let's see. Why am I losing this? Really? Okay, that's better. All right, and Kay Luna, you are the winner of a annual license of Harmony Premium, and that's going to be the new version, which is 21. So that is the end of our giveaway for today. So again, I'll be sending out emails. If you get an email from Tony at Tony Teach, will say 2D Summit or 2D Animation Summit winner. Yes, congrats to these peeps. And again, thanks, shout out to Toon Boom. Some of you all are talking about learning Toon Boom. Friday, we're actually going to be giving away, I think we're giving away 2 different classes, because the classes, they're like 36 hours. Like, I know sometimes I teach the fundamentals class, but it's like I teach, when I've taught it, it's been like Saturday and Sunday, like on the East Coast, 9 to noon. And we do that for like, I want to say 6 weeks. So, yeah, like 36 hours worth of training. A shout out to Toon Boom. Yes. Love you, Toon Boom. It's like I was saying, if anyone says like, man, you talk a lot about Toon Boom. Yeah. One, if you know anything about me, I love Toon Boom. I use it frequently. Even if they weren't a sponsor, I'd be still talking a lot about Toon Boom. But they are a sponsor, so yes. So there's that. So, okay. I'm rambling. I'm going to go get some rest. But we'll be shooting out emails to our winners Tomorrow we're going to be taking a look at giving out some more prizes and start giving out some Wacom stuff. Oh yeah, sorry, I was going to tell you what Wacom is actually doing. We're going to be giving away some small Intuuses, Intuisi, as well as several Wacom ones. So it's like a Cintiq Junior, as it were. So several Wacom ones we're going to be giving away. And last but not least, we have one single thing to give away. The final present we're going to be, or not present, final prize we're going to raffle off from Wacom is actually a 16-inch Cintiq. So much love to Wacom for their help and support with this. So yeah. So Logan says, I got one. You got the... Yes, you have a Wacom one, and it's awesome. Yes, Wacom ones are awesome. So, yeah, we're giving away a couple of those. And it's a pretty cool thing. And so, meanwhile, I'm going to rest and try to actually be functional tomorrow. Because allergies is currently kicking my butt. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit at the end of day 3. Day 4 will be popping up tomorrow. And we have Lindsay Noller, Toon Boom Rigger. We have Roberto Rodriguez, who is a CG animator. Thanks so much. You're a dork. Let's see. Who else do we have? Rest. Thank you. Is my voice that noticeable? We have, oh my gosh, Laren DeJarnett works for a small company called Disney. So we get to hang out with him and talk shop. I know he actually worked on the reboot of the what is that thing called? Oh man, The Proud Family. So, Dapper Wave, thank you. Yeah, see you, Tyree. Oh, and tomorrow, yeah, it's going to be just 3 interviews tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing a little more tutorials and demos. I might, since she's actually peering over my shoulder, my kid did a popcorn character, so we might actually rig that during the shows around starting at 2:15. But show you what I would go through as far as putting a character together. That's a little more complicated than the stick figure. So, but yeah, that's tomorrow. And Friday is going to be AJ Cote talking about Toon Boom classes, and they said we're going to be giving away 2 classes. Ollie Putland, we were talking a lot about him. He's going to be here on Friday, letting you know. Normally, Ollie and I talk almost like an hour and a half to 2 hours. There's only going to be 45 minutes shown this week, but the full thing will be up next week. And last but not least, 1:15 Friday, Mr. Robert Valley. Holy crap! I was honored to actually get him back this year. And if you don't know who Robert Valley is, do me a favor, look up Robert Valley Wonder Woman. So there's these Wonder Woman shorts he did a couple of years back, but he did them in Photoshop. Recently he did Zima Blue. It's in Love, Death, and Robots. That's in part 1. And part 2, he did Ice. He directed those. Now, those weren't done in Photoshop, but I'm saying he still directed those. He has a very distinct style, and he's a really cool dude. So his interview is going to be the closing everything out. So meanwhile, I'm about to start coughing. So peace. Gotta go.